to the Daily Ascent. I'm Molly Carmel, and this is the podcast I always wish existed. A bite sized, on the ground, spiritual note that can shift your thinking and your outlook on life to make us all a little bit more awake, alive, and ascending. So here we are, the day before the second pillar of the holiday season. And I want to talk about what happens when you love life so much that you basically start overdoing it. I imagine many of us are in this space right now. Like when the yes is totally sincere and the excitement is real, but your body is waving a white flag. And this matters because so many of us, obviously myself included, confuse generosity with exhaustion. And we think that being loving means being endlessly available. And as I know all too well, something always pays the price. So I've had a lot of quiet years recently, like basically from 2021 through 2023. My life was like a monk. It was like monastic. It was small in a way that was totally necessary in a larger spiritual context. I don't regret 1 minute of it, but it lacked a lot of connection and it lacked a lot of joy. So now that things feel very alive again, I can feel myself wanting to take enormous bites out of things. And I mean, this is especially tricky if you struggle with an eating disorder and addictions like I do. There's this very familiar pull to consume life the way that you consume substance, right? A man said it at a meeting many years ago, overall lover of more experiences, more connection, more yes. And I didn't even realize that I was doing this until my mom pointed it out. I'm very, very close with my mom. I actually moved to Connecticut in 24 to be close to her. And we were talking recently, and she asked if I could do something. And I just started listing all of the things already on my calendar. You know how holiday season is, but this is kind of how my whole life is. Monday night, I had to do something with my community that was really late. Tuesday night, I had a friend coming over here who was struggling. And early Tuesday morning, I had coffee with my dear friend Eileen. And my mom stopped and she looked at me and she was like, Molly, you really have to stop saying yes to everything. You're saying yes to everything. And she said this, which I don't know if you have a mom or a friend or anything like this, but it was like truth bomb. She was like, it's going to come back and get you. And I was like, ugh, she can be such a witch sometimes, truly like, and she wasn't wrong. And I felt it right in my body right away. I felt that tight feeling and that quiet knowing that if I went really late Monday night, really late Tuesday night, really early Tuesday morning, I was going to pay for it. But what made it way harder was that I'd already said yes to all of the things. And I hate setting boundaries after the fact. It makes me feel messy and uncomfortable, but I also kind of knew that ignoring my limits would make me exhausted and resentful, and that just doesn't serve anybody. So I voice memoed Eileen and I was just said to her, like, I love you. I'm obsessed with you. I really want to spend time with you. And I said yes, because I absolutely meant it, but I overcommitted. And I know that if I do coffee in the morning, I'm going to feel it in my body. I'm already feeling a little under the weather and I don't want to do that to you or to me. Can we please reschedule? This is like the bravest thing I've ever done in my life. And, I really advise that we try things out on people in our spiritual power circle because this was sort of a safe voice memo in many ways. And she was very generous about it, warm, easy, totally unfazed. And was like, great. And after I sent that message, something in my body really settled, not relief like I got away with something, just relief like I told the truth, I took care of myself. And honestly, the next morning I slept until 7, which is like sleeping until 2 p.m. for me. And I just felt so relaxed. Like I just gave myself a little bit of time and space that I really needed. And what struck me was this: the boundary didn't cost me the relationship. It actually protected the relationship because I didn't show up depleted or half present or secretly annoyed with myself. I just made a different plan where I could be rested and genuinely happy to be there. And that's when I realized that this isn't about canceling on people. It's really about catching myself earlier, about pausing before I say yes, about checking in with my body and, frankly, my schedule before I become that overall lover of more, before I start over consuming life the same way I've over consumed so many substances in my past. So that brings me to today's pocket sage, and it comes from David White, and it comes from his book called Consolations. This is a collection of reflection on everyday words and what they ask of us. And here's the passage. One of the great mistakes is to judge ourselves by what we are capable of doing rather than what we are capable of sustaining. The measure of our lives is not what we can force ourselves to do, but what we can continue to do with presence, integrity, and care. Let me read it for those of you in the back. This doesn't describe our holiday season. I don't know what does. One of the great mistakes is to judge ourselves by what we are capable of doing rather than what we are capable of sustaining. The measure of our lives is not what we can force ourselves to do, but what we can continue to do with presence, integrity, and care. And I feel like that's the distinction that is starting to feel really important to me. So the word of the day is restraint. I don't think restraint is a negative word by any means. When I think about restraint, I don't think about like willpower or restriction. I just think about listening, right? Restraint to me is that small pause before the yes, that moment where we can notice our breath or our energy or that like guttural truth in our body. And it's that difference between responding from excitement or, scarcity and pressure. You know, it's just asking ourselves, what can I sustain, right? What can I really do that's in the benefit of myself and others? Not forever, just being really honest about something. And here's what restraint is teaching me right now. I don't want to do less, but I do want to do better. I want to show up in ways that feel clean and grounded and true instead of rushing around like a whirling dervish, saying yeses that my body can't keep up with. And when I don't practice restraint, when I don't pause, I tend to overcommit. Like I'm a lover of life. I say yes quickly and then I feel the cost later. And that cost might show up as fatigue or irritation or what just happened to me, right? Needing to pull back after the fact, which felt awful. And so I'm practicing catching myself earlier. Before I answer, almost always, I do everything imperfectly. I want you to know that. I hope you do too. I just try to notice, right? Whether I feel open or tight and asking myself if I really want to do this or if this is an old people pleasing habit, taking on more than I can hold, because I don't want to cancel on people. I want to choose a pace that lets me keep my word, right? And when restraint comes from that place, then it actually becomes generosity and I'm kinder to myself. And in that way, the people in my life get the best version of me, which is actually present. And that's the kind of life I want. It doesn't make my life smaller. It just makes my life more honest. And so the reflective question for today, where in your life are you saying yes to a version of yourself who you believe never gets tired? And what would change if you honored the version of you who does? Try that one on today. And listen, Merry Christmas Eve to anybody who's celebrating. I am right here with you, Ascenders, learning how to love life without outrunning myself. And if you're curious about who I am beyond this podcast, I have a whole other life outside of Daily Ascent. And you want to see what I'm up to, you can find me at mollycarmel.com. It's a great new website I have launched. And listen, take beautiful, good, sacred care today, and I will see you tomorrow.